What a game. What a high quality game. What an intense game. The desire from both teams, two incredibly high quality teams, so much so that it led to a game that felt quite bitty at times. It was obviously low scoring. And it was a game that both teams absolutely gave everything. Liverpool was so much better than the first game. We're going to talk about that. But this, for me, I just wonder. I've got a bit of a theory that I want to share with you guys. Was it the real reason why PSG were able to beat this team at Anfield and to get through and to win that penalty shootout? Now, we know Donnarumma is very, very good at penalties. Obviously, so is Alisson as well. But who blinks first with this is obviously a big, big thing. And so we're going to come to this. But let's get into the game itself, because I thought what was really interesting was the sort of tactics of the game. I thought Vitinha, I want to talk about, show you a couple of moments from him. The goal is such a clever piece of movement from Vitinha. But in terms of the teams, it was kind of as you were, wasn't it, in terms of the setup? And what was really, really different from Liverpool as opposed to the first game where they were up against it, weren't they, throughout the game? And I'll show you all the stats from that. What was really different was that they played a lot more direct. So PSG played in the exact same way that they had done in the first leg. Mendes kind of coming around to be a 3. Hakimi stepping forward when he could. Ruiz actually being a little bit higher up a lot of the time. Kvaratskhelia and Barcola, I've got it right this time. Barcola over on this right-hand side instead of being on this left-hand side, which was an interesting one. It felt like they were maybe targeting Robertson. Also, maybe it's a bit of somewhat of a red herring because you know that these guys are going to want to switch a lot of the time anyway. But there wasn't a lot of that going on. Dembele kind of generally stayed through the middle. Ruiz sort of working in and around him. But the amount of time that Vitinha was able to have on the ball was much, much less than it had been in the previous game. In the first one, I think it was 132 touches. In this game, he had 99 in the 90 minutes initially. And so you're taking away 30 touches from him. So how exactly did they do that? Well, what they did, they showed aggression, they showed intensity, and they got at them. And importantly, crucially, Liverpool went a lot more direct. And that was massive for this game. And it gave them a chance because, let's be honest, this is an incredible PSG team. We've done a video on it. Go check it out, talking about how they have changed tactically and why they are so good now. And so for Liverpool to get at them the way that they did in this game, it said a couple of things to me. And it was something that I was wondering, I tweeted about it before the game. How big of a difference would the home crowd make? And I think it made a huge difference in the energy that it was able to offer to this team. And I thought Arne Slot leaned into it really, really well, because what he did was he played his front three a lot more narrow than we've previously seen. But crucially, they played quicker and they played a lot more direct. McAllister, I thought, was fantastic in this game with his energy, key passes. But Szoboszlai, in the first few minutes, I'll show you some instances here. They played the ball so much longer and in particular focused on getting the ball to Szoboszlai. And I think the reason for that was that they felt that in that area, in between the two zones of, the two lines of the back line and the midfield, there was a real opportunity for Szoboszlai to win aerial duels. And from there, you can play, you can affect the game. And that's exactly how Liverpool got the win in the first game. And here's a couple of examples of it. Let me show you it. Because actually, let me just show you how much higher up they played in this game. Because here you go. This is from the Heatmap from the game today. And what you can see is Liverpool and a couple of red spots there, because there was this desire to go down the sides. But if you look at the game last week, on the left-hand side here, you can see PSG. And what you can see here is the control that they had. And that's why it's so red in that area there, because they were camped in the opposition's half. Liverpool struggling to get out. In this game, Liverpool really, really high up the pitch in comparison to the week before, but they weren't able to have the same amount of heat, let's say. And the idea was to play quickly and play round the sides as well. And you can see here from PSG, again, if we compare PSG last week and this week, this is last week, much higher up the pitch. But this week, not the same ability to do that. And that was because of the aggression that Liverpool showed, which I thought was fantastic. That alongside the direct balls, it really, really pushed them back, and it made them think twice before how they played themselves. And a lot of the times it meant that PSG themselves played long ball passes. Here is a moment, 3 minutes, and actually there's a header before this from a clearance. The two centre-backs were very careful in not messing about with it. Play the ball early, play the ball quick. You remember here, actually, it's probably a better shot of it. Alisson ready to play the ball, and he played the ball long. We move it along. You can see that ball up. On this occasion, it's to Salah looking to get in behind. And you play from there, and a good opportunity sort of came from there. This is another one with Van Dijk. And what they were doing is they're trying to find Szoboszlai early doors. They were looking for him. Normally, Szoboszlai is a bit of a decoy. In this game, he was a true target man at times in those areas. I thought he worked so hard. I thought every player on the pitch worked so hard. But Szoboszlai, as we always know that he can do, did exactly that. And this is an example of it. Ball played up to him because I think they knew, Arne Slot knew, they could win those duels. They had a lot of dribbles in this game. Very few of those were successful dribbles. But it was about taking the game to PSG, making it really hard for them. And that was a risky strategy. And they were really unfortunate here. And again, energy, making those deep runs. You had that from Liverpool, and you hadn't had that in the first game. And I thought that was really, really impressive stuff. And when we're talking about moments, Salah has two big chances in the sort of 4th and 5th minute. I've got written down here. Virgil van Dijk has a header. Quansah has a header. There's so many little moments, despite PSG having more XG, I think, in the first half of the game than any team has had in a full game at Anfield this season. And that just shows the sort of ding-dong affair of the whole game. And the momentum bar, again, it's a good one to compare with last week to show how good this PSG team is. This PSG team is really, really strong. Young, it was about 3 years younger in average age as opposed to this Liverpool side. And Liverpool gave them a real run for their money in this game. There might be some critique on Liverpool, but I thought they had a real go here. This is the game today, and you can see how much less momentum PSG were able to have in the game, how much less control they were able to have in the game as well. It was a really good game. And in that second half, you could see that maybe Liverpool ran themselves out right near the end of the game. They had that real push in the second half. I really thought that they would wane because of the energy they'd shown in the first half. But they kept going. But I think it's a dangerous thing to say, Liverpool fans. Let me know how you feel. When it comes to quality, did you feel like PSG had a bit more quality than you? I felt like you had the sort of the nous and the experience and the defensive bite to sort of not just stay in the game, but to affect the game as well. But I did feel like this PSG team, they are really, really going places, and which is why they were able to live with the intensity of you guys, really. Let's have a look at some of the other things that I thought were really, really interesting. Here you can see that high press and that narrow press, that narrow starting point from that front three, trying to really get at them, make life really difficult and not allow them to play through. But there was one player throughout the game who I thought was absolutely outstanding, and his name was Vitinha. I thought he was absolutely just incredible with the movement, constant running. I thought João Neves was outstanding as well. And it's one that these two teams playing at that intensity destroy most teams. And I just wanted to show one quick clip that showed how press-proof Vitinha is. This guy is absolutely incredible at knowing what to do, scanning, getting around the pitch as well. So this is an interesting one. They were losing aerial duels. Vitinha wasn't winning those aerial duels. And I think you can see the ball right there. So this is one where actually Jota has nodded the ball up. And Vitinha has to kind of deal with this moment. So what does he do? He sees it. He knows that those players are going to be getting at him really quickly. So it's got to be a one-touch thing. He does this gorgeous little header. And this is all in the same passage of play. So let me just show you here. 23-40. He heads it over to Hakimi. Keeps the ball. Hakimi's careful with it. Plays it long. Tries to put it in behind. Doesn't work out. The ball gets headed back. This time to Szoboszlai. So Vitinha's got to deal with it again. Where's the ball? It's there somewhere. It's probably in the air. But what he does this time, again, really, really clever, is he gives him just that little nudge, but he's going to let Szoboszlai win that header, and then the ball's going to drop, and he is constantly an option. And this is a horrible place to pick up the ball. What's he supposed to do? I think a lot of players would just panic and hook it over. No, that's not what he does. He actually goes towards the ball instead of away from the ball. Marquinhos doesn't think twice, plays it to him, pops the ball again. He does a little flick up and a pass to Hakimi, again keeping the ball. We move it on, and again doesn't stand still, goes towards the ball. It actually makes its way to Marquinhos. Am I saying his name right? Maybe I'm not. And again, demanding the ball, constantly demanding the ball, constantly getting on the ball and solving problems. This lad is really, really special. Gets on the ball here and takes a few players towards him, but still cuts that ball through as well. And they're on their way from there. Vitinha was absolutely phenomenal in this game, as was João Neves. And the goal is just a great example of his understanding of the game. Now, I was talking to Kai about this, my producer, about that sometimes... Often in teams, you have one guy that is all the other players kind of orbit around that one player. And often it can be that six. And with Vitinha, it's absolutely that. But he has that movement as well, which is so great. This is a great passage of play, which leads to the goal. And you can see the channel that is created for Dembele. Now, why is that channel there? The reason the channel's there is because of Vitinha understanding what happens. Ruiz gets the ball around here and pops the ball off and then carries on his run. And Vitinha, in that moment, actually sees that happening. And because he's not in his normal position, he's actually here instead. What he does is he drives over to this area here. And what that does is it brings Szoboszlai with him, who otherwise would be looking to sort of, press in this PSG side. And the goal comes from a really clever pass. Kvaratskhelia as well drops deep as well. This is very choreographed. And it's a really, really clever pass into Dembele that cuts out Szoboszlai. It leaves Gravenberch all on his own. And they're on their way. And they break. And you've got two players in Vitinha and Barcola making that driving run. And in Dembele, you've got a player who can drive with the ball at that back line as well. And it's being stretched at the same time. The pass gets played through. And here's a question for you, Liverpool fans. How are you feeling about Konate for this goal? I think he's just got to solve the problem. Clear the danger here, because he does a lot of good stuff here in terms of getting there, carrying with his runner in Dembele. But when this moment comes, clear it, and you're in a much, much better place, because in that first 10 minutes, you were in the ascendancy, weren't you? It was yours. You'd had chances. You were on top. They were kicking the ball away. You'd flustered them. But as they sort of were able to gain a bit of control in the game, forgive me, these are big moments. And so for that to drop and them to get the goal like that, it's an absolute... It's cost the game in the end of it all. It was absolutely huge. I thought it was a great game. And I think Liverpool fans, nothing to be outrageously disappointed with. The one thing I do think is really, really interesting from this game is the penalties. Now, talk to me. I feel like there's something at play here. Because Donnarumma, for the first one, stands still. He stands completely still. And it's a real easy one for Salah. He just pass it in the corner, job done. But from a psychological point of view, by standing still for that first one, you send a message out. You send a message out to every penalty taker afterwards that you mustn't really put the ball in that middle zone. And so if we think of kind of the three corners, let's maybe do it this way. If you think of the three corners of the pitch, talking shit. If you think of the three areas that we're generally looking at when it comes to penalties, he's messed with their heads just that little bit. And look, of course, the penalties were poor. But I do think that played a massive part. And Donnarumma's an absolute beast when it comes to penalties as well. But so is Alisson. And so by almost conceding that first one, but making this area kind of out of bounds, it took one of the three away. And what that does for Donnarumma himself as well is he now knows that because he's done it that first time, you've got to be double brave to go straight through the middle next time. And so he then has to just make a decision to go one way or the other way. And I do think that just planted just a tiny bit in their heads. Now, maybe they made their decision and they're going to do what they were going to do. But Curtis Jones in particular is one where he's watching. And he's sort of careful with it. And I wonder if that just played on the mind here for them. Because the penalties obviously weren't great. Didn't get the job done. And that led to, by It allowed the PSG to then put the pressure on and get the job done. I think that might, in a game as fine as that, I think not taking your chances from a Liverpool point of view. The clearance from Konaté, who was a bit wobbly at times, I thought, and got away with a few moments here and there. That's undone a lot of incredibly hard work in terms of, the amount of times that we saw Luis Diaz or Jota, and I said it, I was chatting to Kai when we were watching the game, the amount of times the ball is this side of that front line and they get back and make a tackle, or Diaz does it, or Jota does it, or even Salah does it. They work so hard as a team, and it's just one of those, as I thought Virgil van Dijk summed it up brilliantly, it's just one of those days where they gave absolutely everything they had from a technical point of view, technical quality. Did they have the same quality as them? No, but they figured the game out. They figured a game plan out. And by pressing and keeping the ball down the other end of the pitch, they're able to keep PSG away from their goal. And, Kvaratskhelia gets taken off. Barcola gets taken off. But the depth of this PSG team is pretty outrageous. And they've got a real chance to go really, really far now. Liverpool fans, let me know how you're feeling right now. PSG fans, let me know how you're feeling as well. And if you want to know more about PSG, as I say, we've got a whole video. It's a beautiful one. Go and check it out. Support the channel. Thanks a lot.